What up, what up, what up? Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Grid and Grind Show brought to you by the Off the Bench Podcast Network. We got a good one. We're ending the week with Breezy Leins, Southwest Florida Sharks. She's a nutrition specialist at Life Minded Health. She's a CrossFit Level 1 coach, weightlifting coach, nutrition coach at Real Fitness Sarasota. She's a all-around badass, pro United Grid League player and mom. Can't beat it. Good way to end the week, and I'm looking forward to catching up with her, getting her story, and talking about all things Southwest Florida Sharks. But as you know, before we get into the interviews, we got to pay the bills around here. So I got some sponsors to plug so that I can keep the lights on, and apparently I got to keep the heat on again because it's getting cold here in Florida. So I know it's crazy. I'm ready. I'm ready for the heat. I'm ready for the heat. Ask me that again in August. I may not say I'm ready for the heat, but right now I'm ready for the heat. But the In Off the Bench Podcast Network's Grid and Grind show is brought to you by Chinook Seeds, the best seeds in the game, 8 flavors, mild to wild. It's college baseball season, and you know what that means. You need to stock up. You need to be ready with your best flavors so that you can go out and support your teams no matter what the weather is. We had college baseball kicking off last weekend. We got week 2 of college baseball this weekend. We've had our college baseball show on the network. Really just talking a lot of good things about the top 25, talking about Campbell baseball with Dalen Thompson yesterday. So another good one this afternoon and tomorrow with the pros and Joes. We got Memphis City Designs. Get your brands, gear, and logos on everything from shoes to underoos. Get your in off the bench gear like this hoodie. I had to break this hoodie back out for this little cold snap that we got. But you can get your color waves, your favorite team, your favorite color, you name it. We got a hoodie with your name on it. So check it out. Relief Chiropractic, Dr. Vic Robinson. He's got the magic hands. He's rejuvenating people. He's adding years to their life. He's not just going to give you some cookie cutter out of the box thing to do to make you feel better. He's going to give you a needs assessment. He's going to customize a plan and tailor a plan that is specific to you. So go see him. I promise you won't be disappointed. And finally, Old Dominick Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominick's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. And as always, tell them DB, tell them Jim, tell them anybody from In Off the Bench sent you because they might hook you up. You might get a little extra taste. You didn't hear that from me. I'm just saying it's happened before. So, but with that, I can keep the heat on for another couple days. The bills have been paid. The sponsors have been plugged. And so now we got to get to it. We got to end the week right with Breezy Leins of the Southwest Florida Sharks. Breezy, what's up? How we doing?
Pretty good. How are you? Freezing.
I am blessed. I know it's. I know that you're in Sarasota, and I don't know what the. It can't be too much of a difference between you and me here in Tampa, but like we got this nasty rain all day yesterday, but prior to that, it was like amazing weather. Like
yeah, last weekend was awesome.
70s, maybe touched 80, but not a lot of humidity, cooler in the mornings. Like it's what you want to live here for. And then we get this dreary, cloudy, you got the cold running in kind of day. And it's hard to complain, because you look around the country and there are some people with snow on the ground or in negative, temperatures.
My family's in Ohio. They had like a snow day the other day. Ooh. Miserable.
I mean, if you're having snow days in Ohio, I feel like Ohio is built for snow at this point. So if you're having a snow day, that must mean it's really bad.
Yeah, true.
But for you, let's get into it a little bit. Obviously, you own your own business, Life Minded Health. Is that
No, I don't own it. It's owned by the woman. Her name's Tanya Papa. She owns both Real Fitness Sarasota and Life Minded Health. And I coach for her at both of them, actually.
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to ask you the hard-hitting question out of the gate.
Right.
What do you like to do better? Do you like to coach the training part or the nutrition part better?
Ooh, that is so hard. I nerd out so hard on both of them. I think my underlying main passion is nutrition because that is for everyone, whereas, CrossFit isn't necessarily for everyone. but I do think I get more excited about wins at CrossFit versus like a long-term journey with nutrition. Because I'm all about like recreating a healthy relationship with food versus like a 30-day diet. So, you know, when I work with somebody on nutrition, it's about like a long-term relationship versus like with CrossFit, like I want to fix your technique now. I want to give you cues that change how you feel in your lift right now, you know? So I think the like gratification is very different on the two. So like long-term nutrition, but like instant like wins in CrossFit.
Yeah, I think for CrossFit, obviously, you know, you want to be able to correct movement, not just because it's the way that it needs to be done, but you want people to be safe. You don't want them to get injured. But that's the one
Yeah.
thing that you hear about CrossFit is, oh, well, it's unsafe. Well, not really. It's if you do it wrong, along with
Yeah.
any other thing that you do wrong, it is unsafe.
Yeah. That's like
But
one of my least, there's two things that I hate the most that are like negatives about CrossFit. One is the injuries because you can get injured doing literally anything. And the other one is people saying that they need to be in shape to start CrossFit. Because I'm like, that's the point of CrossFit, is it will help you get in shape.
yeah, you know, for the longest time, I've been doing CrossFit, I mean, since 2011, 2012. And I originally got into CrossFit because I got sick of going into the gym and waiting to use machines or equipment. And I was just like, there's got to be a better way. And so when I saw, you know, when I moved to Tampa, I saw a bunch of people running all the time. And I'm like, let me like creepily, I was like, let me follow these people and see where are they going. And like I peeked my head in and like it's like it's almost like an MMA gym half, and then the other half was CrossFit. And I was like, man, I don't even think I'm man enough to go in that place. But eventually I find myself in it, and I'm like, within an hour, I'm in and out, and I
Yeah.
feel like I've died twice. And I'm like, this was awesome.
But it's so
Absolutely.
nice. Like somebody else tells you what to do. You don't have to create it in your mind. You know, somebody else is running a clock. Somebody else is telling you how to warm up, how to cool. Like that was it for me. Cause like you didn't like waiting on machines. I didn't even like getting on machines. Like, so I was introduced to CrossFit. I played college volleyball and introduced to CrossFit. It was kind of like
Where'd you play?
Indiana University East. It's in Richmond,
Indiana
Indiana.
East.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it
We
was
our network, we do volleyball too. So I was just curious.
nice. Yeah. Love volleyball. I miss it so much sometimes. Oh man, I think about like if I had found CrossFit before college, like that totally would have changed. Unreal.
It would
But
have
anyways,
changed the game. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, kids now getting involved in CrossFit, I'm low key jealous of them because I'm like, this wasn't a thing when I was in high school, or it was like starting to become a thing, you know. But
right.
oh well.
So were you in the gym or in the weight room prior to college, or college was kind of that epiphany moment where you go, man, like these things coincide so well, and like to be
Yeah.
elite at the sport, I have to be elite in the gym.
So not as much. In high school, I actually was a swimmer, which was so like we did dryland training, but it wasn't really in the weight room. But then volleyball, they like towards the end of my high school career, they were like, oh, okay, seeing the correlation, you know, because like the guys teams obviously were in the weight room all the time. I had a couple bad experiences with like training with like the guys strength coach because he just wrecked me because I wasn't used to the volume and the things that they did. But towards the end, definitely they were starting to like figure it out. And in college is really when it took off. My freshman year, like we worked so hard in the summer conditioning. And then as soon as season started, you know, all that conditioning just went out the window. And we would have light practices and travel days and all this stuff. So that by the end of the season, we were like in the worst shape. And you like think, how does that happen? And so I was actually a captain my freshman year with a girl that was one of my good friends. And we were like, we need to keep up the conditioning. Like that is exactly what crushed us at the end of the season, is that we like fell off because we couldn't bring our A game in that fifth set because we were exhausted. And so starting my sophomore year, we started doing the circuit training, very like CrossFit centric, where, you know, it's like station work and all of that. And I'll never forget like my senior year, we had like a national game of the week, and we were like ranked 24th playing like the 12th ranked seed. And we go into that fifth set, and there's always a new coin toss or whatever before the fifth set to see who serves. And like the captains from the other team are just drenched and breathing hard. And we were all like, chill. We're like, dude, this is why we train as hard as we train. And it was just such an epiphany for everyone.
It's got to be a great feeling when you look across there and you're like, we got them.
Yeah.
We got you.
The best part was all the girls on my team that like moaned and hated and complained all the training, because we would literally like make everyone show up 30 minutes early to practice and do like a 20-minute circuit of like just miserable core, jumping, plyometrics, and they would all, you know, moan. And the girls that moaned like the worst were like, oh man, they're exhausted and we're not. And I was like, thanks.
Thank you.
Glad that
you're welcome, everybody.
And then that was such a turning point in my senior season.
All right, so what happens after college? Do you go immediately into a CrossFit gym and go
I went to Planet Fitness. So I moved from my college town and, you know, joined a gym right away, Planet Fitness, and probably like 4 or 5 miserable months where I would spend an hour on the elliptical. You know, I would look at the machines. I would maybe do like some yoga ball, like ab curls. And I was just miserable. And the guy that I was seeing at the time was like, I need something more than this. And so we joined CrossFit, and I haven't gone back.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at this point, when do you transition to, like, how do you get to Florida? Were you in Florida when you moved from college?
No, that was still in Indiana. I was there for a couple more years. And then stuff ended there, and I just needed a new setting. I have an uncle who lives on Siesta Key, and I visited him for like 2 days, and I was like, this is it. I'm moving here. Like, I want to be in Florida. And moved down here. I was working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car at the time, and they transferred me, thankfully. And so I transferred within the company, moved down here. I was here for maybe like 6 weeks doing like workout videos on my phone. And my friend that I moved down here that I knew, she was like, okay, she put me in her car and she took me to the CrossFit gym, and she was like, go, like, you are so like depressed. And I walked into Real Fitness Sarasota, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. And what year was that?
That was, I think, 2016. Yeah.
Wow. Hey,
that's crazy.
That is awesome. I commend people, because I didn't necessarily just on a whim just go, I need a break and I need to go. Like, I followed my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, down to Florida. That's how I got here. But I always commend people that are just like, you know what? I need to get out of this. Whatever this is, I've got it. This ain't it. Like, I gotta
no offense.
And like you go, and it's not like you're going from Indiana to Ohio or like in the area. Like you said, screw all this. I'm going to go as far south as I can, almost.
Pretty much. Yeah. Those were kind of my options. It was either start all the way over in Florida or go back home to Ohio where my family was. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, now's the time.
So at what point do you go, I like CrossFit so much, I want to coach it?
I mean, I always, it's funny now that I'm a coach, because I see members that I'm like, oh, the coaching member. Like, that was always me. Like, I always did the extra. I always stayed after class. I always like tried to push the envelope, doing more than what I was supposed to be doing. And then COVID happened, and Enterprise was great to a lot of us, but it just became like a very consuming suckhole. And I had actually gotten my L1 previous to leaving Enterprise, just because I was so passionate about CrossFit. I loved it so much. My husband and I decided to, sign up, go get them, because we both just loved CrossFit. We had competed at Wadapalooza. We did, all the competitions we could. And so I got my L1, and 3 months later, the owners of Real Fitness Sarasota approached me, and they were like, hey, you have your L1 and you're very vocal. Are you interested in coaching? And I said, yep. And about a month later, I hit my 7-year anniversary with Enterprise. So I was full tenure, and I put in my 2 weeks, and I've been coaching ever since.
Wow. They were like, you like the day that you get your full tenure, you're like, I'm out.
Pretty
Thanks
much.
for the ride.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Literally.
That's awesome. You probably were like, see, I got you.
Yeah.
Got you all.
No, I know. I wanted to put in my 2 weeks earlier, but there's like so much risk with Enterprise. And I mean, they're a great company. Loved them. They took care of me. I had some amazing bosses. But I knew that I had to wait until that day. So yeah, I waited.
Yeah. Hey, you got to do what's best for you. So you now have this career as a CrossFit coach. You put in your 2 weeks, like you're all in. Is that when you go, all right, I'm coaching CrossFit now to supplement this CrossFit thing? I probably need something else. So is that how you got into the nutrition part of it?
Actually, I had been a nutrition client. So Tanya Papa, who's incredible, just such a badass girl boss. So she owns, like I said, Life Minded Health and Real Fitness. And she pretty much created Life Minded Health because she recognized a need for nutrition support in the gym. So many athletes of hers, would come to her needing help. And I was one of them. So I've actually been a vegetarian for 18 years and had no idea how to do it. Like, I'm talking played 3 sports in high school, played college volleyball.
Wait. How do you do something for 18 years and then go, I didn't really know how to do it?
I mean, so I knew how to not eat meat, but if people ask me like, oh, where do you get your protein? I would be like, oh, peanut butter, just the craziest, which I know now is so dumb. But in that time, I mean, thankfully I had a very supportive mom who, introduced like whey protein and started making sure, because a lot of times people, when they become vegetarians, unfortunately, it's not a very healthy lifestyle or diet if you don't know how to approach it correctly. So I was very blessed with like a supportive mom who like put in the effort, but until 6 or 7 years ago, like I didn't know where my protein intake was. I didn't know how I was supporting, all the weightlifting and stuff that I was doing. And so that was really my like starting factor with why I wanted to work with Tanya, was because I was like, I'm just interested in performance and like knowledge. I didn't really have aesthetic goals. I don't really care what I weigh. I just care how I feel. And like that, I'm supporting the work that I'm doing. And I mean, I've always been passionate about nutrition and health and stuff like that. But so from being her client, I just like went down a hole and I was like, I'm really like, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And so she brought me on the team, and we have like 5 or 6 coaches now, and they're all awesome. And I love working with them. I love working not only with, athletes. I work with a lot of postpartum moms, which is really like near and dear to my heart. Work with, guys, like I don't mind working with guys. I love, a male version of things is really interesting to me. So, really just becoming or going from being a client and realizing how much it changed my life. It made me really excited and passionate to want to help others on their journeys.
Right. So, I mean, that's unbelievable. First and foremost, I mean, to just say, you know what, Indiana, I'm out. You go to Florida, and it's like, not that you start over, but you quit a job and you put you push all your chips in the middle, and you're like, CrossFit, nutrition, here we go.
Yeah.
And I can hear the passion in your voice. I can hear the excitement that you get when you speak about it. So I know like you made the right choice. So how does grid get thrown in the mix? Did you, was it something that you heard about, or did somebody approach you, or did you go see it? Like how, because it's a very niche thing. I mean, if you're in the CrossFit space, you probably will come across it at some point, but how did you get introduced to grid?
I was approached actually. So this is like 2019. I'm still working for Enterprise. I'm not a CrossFit coach. No. Yeah. So 2019, and Nick Habich, who was the original coach of the Southwest Florida Sharks, we were at a competition together, and he was like on teams, I think. And there was a couple other members of the Sharks previously that were there. And I was competing individually. It was actually my first individual competition, like in Florida. And he approached me. There was like a weightlifting segment. I was outside. It was like a 3-rep clean, and I power clean 215 for 3. And he came up to me and he was like, all right, you got to play grid. And pretty much like him and another player from that season just kind of hit me up on Instagram afterwards and didn't really let it go. And I signed and played the next season.
Nice. So what were did you know a lot about grid when you signed?
Nothing.
Did you do research or
Nope.
so like you're going in like, hey, I got this, no big deal. Let's just do it. And then all of a sudden, like, were you thrown off a little bit? Were you taken aback by the sport once you actually get in it, or was it kind of an easy transition for you?
No, not easy at all. So the players, working with Nick and the player that kind of like helped recruit me, walked me through the races, told me everything. I understood nothing. So I don't even think we had a practice or anything. So the first season that I played was actually 2020. So it was the COVID year. And grid was canceled other than they had that as one tournament. So it was 2 days, sorry. And, you played 2 matches in the first day and teams moved on, whatever. And show up. I'm in the very first race of my very first match. It's partner forward, me and this guy, Johan, who doesn't play anymore. And I mean, we got beat by like 0.1 second and I faulted. I did a box jump before he was in the quadrant or like in the queue. And so, I mean, I'm telling you, like my adrenaline, my nerves were just through the roof. Like it's so hard to explain to people. Like, I understand that I'm only doing 6 reps. Like, to CrossFitters, they're like, oh, it's only 6 reps. But it's like the most intense 6 reps of your life. And I finished that first match and my whole body was buzzing. I was like, I hate this. I'm terrible. This is the worst. And I like calmed down. And
thought about having the shortest grid career ever.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm like, I guess I'll play this next match, but like, I don't know what to do. And I played in the next match, and I just kind of like leaned into the adrenaline, and it was the most fun, and I was addicted. Like, you just don't get that feeling at the end of races anywhere else other than grid.
So what does training look like then if you are, going from CrossFit, you find grid, now you're actually enjoying grid, you're leaning into it. Are you still just going, I'm going to let my CrossFit, supplement anything that I do on the grid? Or are you actually trying to train grid specific movements?
Definitely grid specific for sure. I do supplement obviously with CrossFit. And actually this year I became a High Rocks certified instructor and I coach High Rocks. So that's kind of like knocking out my, cardio aspect, a lot of like endurance and stuff like that. But you have to train for grid. If you just do CrossFit, you will not be ready. Not only it's like your central nervous system has to get that like shock over and over. So I've had a really crazy grid career. So first year was COVID. So we had the AS one. My next year I signed and found out I was pregnant like 3 weeks later. And I did not play that season. So my next year I was postpartum and just so focused on strength. I'm a barbell specialist. That's my job. Like, could care less. My coaches don't care if I can do 10 burpees as fast as possible. They care if I can cycle a barbell 30 times, so it was very, very strength specific grid training. My next year I was pregnant again. So I played that year. And again, same thing, like, especially for, creating a really safe baseline. So I could continue to train for grid with those weights, with those movements, and still have a healthy, strong pregnancy. And then, so this past year was my second postpartum season. And again, it was just getting ready for that high intensity. So think of it as lots of like really spiking your heart rate and then moving a barbell. So lots of EMOMs, lots of Tabatas, lots of like 40, 45 seconds all out on an echo bike, clean and jerk, like that type of thing. So that my heart rate is very high because your adrenaline during grid is so high. Like your heart rate is, even if you're not in the race, sometimes I feel like my heart rate is higher in the races that I'm watching than the ones that I'm in because it's just so all consuming. So it's a lot of that like interval work, really short rest, do it again.
So do we have to anticipate you competing pregnant this season? Because it seems to be the
Please no.
I kid. I will say this. I work pretty closely with Jess and the brigade, and
Oh, nice.
it's amazing watching her. And like I knew about you, and like you had done this prior to her doing it, but like the amount of like just like I hate to say the word hate, but like people were like very vicious towards
Yeah.
her, and she
Yeah.
like kind of like she eats that shit up.
Yeah,
But
that like feeds
like
her.
being yeah, being pregnant out on the grid, obviously you know what your body can do, but like did you come across any backlash where people appalled or shocked? They're like, what are you doing?
A little bit, yeah. It doesn't like feed my like personality the way that I feel like it probably feeds Jess's a little. For me, it's more of like okay, let me make sure that I'm not being silly, or let me like take a step back and really look at this the full view. Because there's a saying when I got pregnant that I hate so much, but it's so legit, and it's just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I had to really, check with myself a lot. Like, okay, I did rope climbs when I was pregnant. Like, is this stupid? And I was like, no, I feel fully confident in myself that I'll be just fine. Or, the hang power cleans. Nope, I totally feel like I can do this safely. And so, yes, there was a lot of hate out there for sure. And as much as that upsets me, there was also a ton of people that were extremely supportive. And I do think, the world and message around women pregnancies and athletics is changing. And, for something to change, there's always backlash, there's always hate. But even though I'm not the first mom playing grid by any means. I might've been the first one to do it while actively pregnant, but again, I had created that very safe baseline so that everything I did was safe. But I think for, like I said, the conversation and the stigma around women and pregnancies and athletics is, it is thankfully changing and hopefully will continue. So people learning to support that and find ways to question without, bringing hate is important. But, people are going to do what they're going to do.
I think to me, I think it's more about the inspiration that you give to other female athletes who maybe they do think about their career as far as being an athlete and go, I need to postpone this. I can't do both. But the reality is, yeah, you
Doesn't it
can do both.
suck? Yeah,
It's
I hate that.
yeah.
I think about like top tier professional athletes. Like you have Alex Morgan from US Soccer who had to, take a step back to have a baby, or Allison Felix, the USA women's track and field, who Nike dropped when she got pregnant, and she came back 2 years later and is like winning medal. Like, so it's just for women, it's sorry, but it is unfair in the sense that women have to almost choose one or the other. And to really show, like you see Jess, already back crushing it, getting ready for grid again, like to show that, okay, you might have to take a step back for a short period. It doesn't have to mean forever. And that was kind of like how I felt about getting back on the grid after having my 3-year-old. So the first one, I was like, I'm getting back next year because I want to prove to myself that I may never be the same woman that I was and the same athlete that I was, but that doesn't mean that it can't be a good thing. Doesn't mean that I can't be better in other ways. Doesn't mean that I can't still do what I loved to do before.
Absolutely. And I think as you evolve as an athlete, when you go through these different, seasons of life, you become more aware of what you can do as opposed to not necessarily what you can't do. And you become like very hyper focused on it. I'm going to make sure that I'm so good at this that nothing else matters. And I think when you're training, like you talk about, I just, all I need to do is move this barbell 30 times. Like I don't necessarily have to do burpees. I don't necessarily have to do these rope climbs. I want to be able to do them. But like when it comes to grid, I know what I'm good at and I'm going to be damn good. And if you beat me, it's because you're better than me, not because you outworked me. So
absolutely. And when you have a team like my team, where we have such incredible utility players and such incredible, like our body weight specialists are like as strong as I am, you know what I mean? So for me, it's like, let me do my job the best that I can so that they can go do the jobs that I can't. Like, can I do a, triple touch? Maybe, but can I do 8 in a row? No. And that's never going to be my thing, And so for me, it's like, okay, let me take this load so that you can continue to excel on everything else.
Absolutely. So let's get into this past season. Obviously, you guys run through the regular season. We'll get to playoffs in a second, but just the regular season where you couldn't have pictured a better way to run through it. And, were things easy for you? I'm not saying like within the matches, but like you were competitive, you communicated, and things just seemed like, okay, it's going exactly the way that we envisioned it. So when you look at the beginning of 2024 season and then you see how the regular season ended, was that exactly how you pictured it, or did you guys excel beyond what you guys thought you could do?
I mean, I thought we were going to have a little bit better ending, especially how like the middle of the season, the beginning of the season, you never really know how it's going to go. This was really our first season where we weren't having like in-person practices. We were really relying on people to, do their jobs at home, send videos, take care of assignments, and get themselves ready. Whereas every other year we'd done the in-person practices. So that first match was just, it was like oh shit, okay, everyone's here to play. Everyone's serious about this, because it could go either way. Absolutely. So, there are definitely nerves before that first match, but I think after seeing everybody show up and perform the way that we expected them to and wanted them to, kind of like set the tone. And it was like every time we left, this is what was so great about this past season. Every time, you do like a CrossFit competition and you're like sore for a couple days and you like don't even want to see a barbell, right? I'm telling you, every time we had a match, I was like, I cannot wait to get ready for the next one. I cannot wait to start lifting again. I cannot wait to crush this next ladder. Like the motivation from everyone and like the way we all inspired each other was really special last year. The way that everyone held themselves accountable, again, when you're like not meeting in person and you're just relying on people to do these things on their own, it can absolutely it can totally go both ways. And the fact that everyone like cared so much that everyone put the work in, it was awesome. So by mid-season, I was like, I don't know that we're beatable.
Yeah. And that's the way it looked. I mean, from an outsider's perspective, looking in, watching, I'm watching on the streams, and like obviously you're not there I'm not there in person to witness it all, but looking back on it, I was like saying the same thing. I felt like you guys are getting better. I couldn't really pinpoint exactly. I think if you're in person, you can kind of start pinpointing exactly why teams are better and how they get better. But like over the stream, it's really hard to kind of see the communication in real time and see how you guys, react, emotionally to faults and losing certain races and winning. But I kept saying these guys look like they're getting better and better each week, and that's a scary thing. So you finish the regular season #1 seed. You go into the playoffs, which ended up being a culmination of the regular season with 4 teams vying for the last 2 playoff spots. You guys ended up having, the #1 seed. So you didn't have to play that first day because that was those teams figuring out their regular season and seeding. But you end up getting a team in the Brigade in that first, round matchup. And the Brigade of seasoned team, they've been there a while. They've won it before. They've been in the playoffs. They know what it's like. But they also had to play a match to get themselves in to play you guys. What was the mindset going into that? Were you like, oh, we're getting a tired Brigade team, we got this? Or was it, we're the #1 seed, we're going to go out there and show them why? Or was it just like, hey, if we don't show up today, like this could go south? Like, what was the mindset going into that first round matchup?
I think the mindset was more like, we don't care who we're going against. We're going to bring our A game. I definitely don't think we were like, oh, hey, they've already played a match, they're tired, because they're a good team, especially like with some of the things that are definitely our strengths are like body weight specialists, all of our gymnastics. We've always, between Q and David and Chelsea, we've always had such a great lock on those, plus the support from our utility players, Nick, Sammy, like the other Sam. I feel like they were a really good matchup for us in that sense. So it was kind of like, okay, we need to be like firing on all cues. Like we can't rely on Jack and Jill or female triad or things like that, where we typically have a strength. So I think really just going into it, I know the first few races actually did not go our way. And that is like one of those things where you can grit is very momentum, kind of like what you said, like the spirit, the camaraderie, all of that. So those first few races not going our way, kind of put us all back on our heels a little bit before we started making some changes. And I think if we would have stayed on our heels and like let them run away with it, like it would have been a very different match. But I think, we have really good leadership from not only Fico and Concy, but we have captains on the team now, Chelsea and Sam Martin, and they're very good at pulling us together. Nick Shappy and Sammy Nally, they're such great like game changers that you put them out there and they're going to change a race, and that really changes that momentum. So I think the mindset was just like one race at a time. Every time we went out there, every time we got ready for that next, 3, 2, 1, go, it was, we have to take this one, do or die. And thankfully we did at the end.
It came down to the sprint relay at the end. And obviously to me, that's the easy one. And I hate to say like it's easy, but the mentality in that one's easy. You just go out and win. If you win, you win. If you lose, you don't. Like,
when it's down to those like the points like that, for sure.
I feel like that's where I want to be. I don't want to be in this situation where, well, we're race 3, and if we lose, it's okay, but we need to win. But no, I just want to just win. Like,
that's why it's one of my favorite. It's a Bill Belichick quote that I think everybody uses. It's do your job. And we talk about that all the time. Like if your job is 8 reps, go do 8 reps. Don't do 7, don't do 9, do 8 reps. Do your job and get the hell out of there. That's one of the reasons that sprint is one of my favorite races, is because you get to see people excel at such a short time and then, get out.
I like it because you have to show your balance in your team, because there's so many different movements and elements, and it takes a little bit of everything in that sprint relay to win. And I think it's a good indicator. I don't think it's the only indicator of the best teams, but I think it's a really good indicator of who the best teams are, the ones that perform that sprint relay the best.
Plus, I do think there's a lot of coaching in it too. Like when you see, 4 women and 4 men have to finish like the 8 elements, you see teams that, women, are doing full sets of things, and other teams where, I remember our first race, it was 10 clusters. And so Nick Shappy did 9 of like the fastest clusters I've ever seen. And I did 1 and finished it. You know what I mean? Whereas other teams might use a female to do all 10, or have a male do all 10 and a female do a different element that might be shorter, So there is definitely some like coaching in there too with that.
See, that's the role I need. I need to be the guy that just does 1. Nick, go ahead and do all of these. I got you. I got your 1. I can be really good at that 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna crush. And see, that was my job. I did 1 rep.
You inevitably you win the sprint relay. You move on to the championship and the finals, and you take on the number 2 seed, the Atlanta Wild. And I guess from a competitor standpoint, and even from a league standpoint, when you have the number 1 team go against the number 2 team for the championship, I think that's how you want it to play out.
I kind of feel like things went right.
For you, when you see the Wild across there, did you have any apprehension, or was there any like extra like pressure, like knowing it was them and not another team, or it's just the championship game, there's going to be the pressure that it brings?
Yeah, I think it was, the championship game, there's going to be pressure. We didn't get to play them in the regular season because of the new layout and everything, whereas typically we had played them every season before. So it was kind of like I kind of wish we had already gotten like our feet wet against them, but it was so high pressure. They're obviously a fantastic team. There's not a bad team, like every team has different strengths and weaknesses, but they're obviously a very well-rounded, strong team, top to bottom. So I think just excited to play against them to see how we could stack up was my main feeling going into it.
And so when you guys get going, it seemed as though you just couldn't really get any traction. You couldn't get your footing, and whatever it was maybe it was the match format, like, favored them, or whatever the case might have been. You just didn't seem like you guys could get into a rhythm to get caught up and kind of make it competitive. When you're in that situation, especially in a match with that magnitude, what are you saying to the team, or what is the team saying? I'm just curious, like, was it down? Were you up? Were you trying to be positive? Like, what's going on?
I think there's a good mix, because we're all competitive, we're all athletes. So when things aren't going well, like, we're not just going to walk around with like sunshine, rainbows and unicorns. We're going to be tough
Right.
on not only ourselves, but each other. So I think that whole, like, trying to get off of our heels, trying to push each other, trying to wake, some movement up, trying to create some change. Everybody responds differently. Everybody has different motivators. Some people like being told, hey, get your head out of your ass. Some people want to be told, like, hey, you can do this. I believe in you. So finding a really good balance there. And I'm still really impressed. I know we lost, and we definitely were on our heels for the first few races and stuff, but we absolutely made a comeback. And that's the crazy thing about grid, is you can, feel like you're so far behind, and 1 or 2 races totally changed that. They didn't complete the Jack and Jill, which gave us a 3-point swing because we had thrown our bonus flag. Our women won the female triad, which was huge for us. Our men, like, if our men had, just one small moment, could have changed the outcome of the race, especially because we ended up winning sprint relay too. So I do feel very proud of the effort because we continued to show up. We could easily have just kind of like thrown in the towel and, just kind of gone through the motions, but nobody did. Everybody continued to push and do the best that they could. And I'm at least proud of the effort that we, front or beginning to end put out there, even though some calls didn't go our way, some moments didn't go our way. There was definitely more confusion. It wasn't our cleanest. When you were talking about, like, as we, went through the season feeling like we were getting better, I felt like we were getting cleaner. We weren't getting faulted. Yeah. We weren't having miscommunications. We weren't having this and that. And that popped up in the finals. And we hadn't had to deal with that very much. And I do think, when we talk about doing your job, one of the things is communication and being clean reps, no wasted efforts. 5 reps versus 7 reps because you got 2 faults are very different time-wise. So I do think, even though it wasn't our cleanest run in the championship, like, we still gave a show, gave a good effort. And, a lot of teams I don't think would have been able to say that.
Yeah, it's a sport where, not a subjective call, but, because I would say if you go back and look at faults are faults.
Yeah.
In real time, it's very hard to judge some of these movements, but you're right. One fault could be the difference between winning a race and losing a race. And
For sure.
if you have a couple faults that are, uncharacteristic, like, that could be 2 or 3 races that cost you the match. And, when you're not clean, like, that's what you are susceptible to. And it sucks that you weren't sharp, or as sharp as you've been in the past in that championship. But obviously a lot to be proud of, a lot to, build upon. And so with 2025 right here in front of us, you're playing again, right? You're getting after it. We're not.
Yep.
Okay. So what's new with the Sharks for 2025?
I mean, we have, I don't even know if everyone's been announced, so I'm not going to say any names or anything, but we have some awesome additions, which I'm super pumped about, like these crazy athletes. It's so fun. A great core brought back. We have captains and Chelsea and Sam Martin, Fico and Conci are leading us again. I mean, I feel really, really excited about this upcoming season. I think they're, working so hard behind the scenes to set us up for success and put the best, roster together that they can. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really excited about this year.
who should, I mean, I don't know if like, I don't want to put any pressure on you to divulge any roster information that's not out there, but um, what is your personal goal? Obviously, someone who's been in the league for a while and you've basically done it all, but what is your ultimate goal for 2025? Just personally, not the team, because if I ask what the team goal is, it's to win a
You know,
championship. I
championship.
know that. But
Yeah.
personally for you, what would be the goal for the end of the season?
As like a shark, like as a
Yeah.
I mean, I guess continue what I did last year. I was very, my goal last year was to have perfect ladders, and I did that, thankfully, even with that freaking clean push press ladder, which I don't even know how I hit that number. I hadn't hit that bar, I think, more than once at home. So that just shows you the adrenaline, and Figo telling me that I had to do it. So, my goal last year was to do my job on ladders, and I didn't have much of a role outside of that. Plus, I was in a triad, I was in a couple echoes, that final fourth quadrant. So really my goal for this year is to continue leading the ladder and trying to find ways to be more beneficial to the team, trying to find more roles. I know, obviously, like I said, I'm never going to be like the 10 rep burpee girl, but trying to find ways to help with rope climbs, dumbbells, kettlebells, just be more of a integrated player, as much as I can be, but just continue my support role and lead the charge on the ladder and anything that has a barbell.
Absolutely. Can't beat that. I mean, when I look at it, it's a lot comes down, and I don't think people understand this, but a lot comes down to veteran leadership and what veterans can say to new players that may be new to the team or new to grid or a combination of both. And that stuff matters because, much like you, when you got thrown into grid, like, it was a different world. It was a shock for the system to understand what's going on and how everything moves and like the elements of each race and just the rules of a match. And so I could imagine like how you could be helpful in that regards, but also you're leading by example by going out there and just kicking ass like that fires people up. And I think I'm excited to see that from you. But when we look at the roster, here's what I'll tell you. You haven't said any names, and I'm just going to tell you the players that I see on the website. You got Sammy, you got Nick, you got yourself, you got G, you got Chelsea, Kristen Bonito, Roderick Holloway, Derek Anderson, Shaquin, Sid Wetter, David Blatt, Sam, Dana Paran, which is a new addition that I've seen on social media. She's online. And then Zayn Zafra, which was also a new addition that we've seen online and now is on the website. My question is to you, without saying any names. You heard that roster online. Is there more to come?
Yes.
Are there more players? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Are we going to be
roster, right? Unreal.
I mean,
even just those two new additions.
Well, we got to get into this because this brings up a good question. So I look at those players and like I look at just that roster, but you can go and look at every team's roster. Every team's roster is adding people or solidifying people or bringing like high caliber athletes in. Like it's almost like this growth and expansion of the league has hit a good stride.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the expansion of the league? I mean, obviously it's a positive, but like when you see teams go from Daytona and now they're setting up shop in Vegas, and then you guys have the team in Atlanta and now an expansion team in Houston, like don't you in some regards, don't you go, oh, this is great for expansion and growth of the league, like more eyes, more people involved, like that's a good thing. But also like then comes the competitiveness of we have 18 to 20 roster spots and we have 200 people that we've got to filter through on top of the ones that, because the reality is like you're signing for a year. And so from year to year, like at any point, like you could, from my understanding, you could be asked not to come back.
Yeah, for sure.
So like when you have more eyes and more talent out there, does anybody get any apprehension, or do they get
No,
their
man, we're
feelings hurt when
competitors.
they know
Bring
that?
it.
Good.
Don't
Good.
we
That's
want
what
to
I
be the
like to
best of the
hear.
best?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that comes with the nature of competitive sports. I think if I need to check what's inside. If you're someone who is playing a competitive sport and you go, oh man, like I don't want to play or prove myself against the best of the best. Like,
Yeah, right.
that would bother
Exactly.
me a little
I
bit.
mean, I think for the most part, like everyone here has some sort of sports background where you've tried out or, gone to tryouts and whatever. And whether you made every team you've ever tried out for or not, I don't think anybody wants to be given a roster spot because they only checked those people. I think the more eyes on the league, I love this league. I think they're doing awesome things. I think, they're obviously the expansion is so fun. I think there's, sky's the limit, but for sure, the more people invested and interested, the better, because you're just going to keep getting better and better and better. And it is entertainment. Like you hear Mather and Ruby talk about it, like it's an entertainment sport. It's not meant to, hold hands or coddle people just because they've played the past few years. And I think that's great. I think, keep bringing in the better people, keep bringing in specialists. Like that is the point of grid. We want to see the best of the best go head to head.
Absolutely. You can't beat it. That's why it's a unique sport in and of itself. And it's growing. It's growing rapidly. And so if people out there, this is my shameless plug. People out there that don't know about grid, you need to get on the train, because it's about to be moving as fast as it can move, and you don't want to be trying to jump on the train when it's full speed. Trust me.
It is. Yeah. It is so fun. That's what, even with like when CrossFitters watch it, or I talk to like my athletes and stuff at the gym, when we talk about my season or matches or whatever, it's just like, if you aren't there, if you don't watch it, like it's hard to explain. You got to watch. You just got to watch a match.
Absolutely. Well, Breezy, I appreciate you carving out some time. We talked about a lot. I'm fired up. Anything that you want to plug or promote before I let you bounce?
Plug or promote? Oh my gosh. No, I don't know. Grid League.
Grid League, United Grid League. Go to the website.
Yeah.
Check it all out.
Yeah. If you go to Sharks,
I will say
check out our rosters, check out our sponsors. We have some really awesome people working with us. One of our biggest sponsors is Herd Athletics. Awesome thumb tape, weight belt, all of the good stuff.
Yeah, it's let's see if I got your sponsors here. Oh, that's my dog. You hear that? She's going crazy.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was like the show.
Oh no.
We got my husband at UBS Wealth Management.
Yep, UBS. Yep. Unbroken, T-Mobile Fiber.
T-Mobile, yeah. Oh, Unbroken, that's a new sponsorship that I am so excited about. Actually, this is a crazy side story that you probably don't care about. But when I had my son, this was back in December, I ended up hospitalized for 5 days after having him, because I had mastitis and my blood pressure went out of control from the antibiotics. My liver went into failure. Unreal. And so working with the nephrologist, pretty much all the supplements that I had been taking got nixed, and I obviously as a nutritionist am very clear about what I take, so having to kind of like reset my body and reintroduce everything and making sure that I still feel good, reintroducing stuff to my body. So I'm actually really excited about the sponsorship with Unbroken, because that's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, it's I mean, I tell people this. I am like an experimental lab. I will try. If you're somebody who's like, I got a new product, I'll try it.
No,
I'm kidding. Obviously, you need to know what's going in your body. You need to be aware of it. You need to honestly, if you're going to be sponsored by something and you need to know about it. You need to be aware of it. And I work with college athletes all the time. And one of the things, like, supplements are a big a big hot button issue, because like what they don't realize is like some of these things contain ingredients that will cause you to fail drug tests, whether you're trying to
Mm,
fail a drug test or not. Like, and the reality is the NCAA puts out a list and they don't explain it to you. They just say,
yeah,
if you have these ingredients, like you will test positive. And if you test positive, it's X, and it's
yeah.
no, you can petition it, you can
Zero
review it.
tolerance.
But the fact of the matter is I've had 0 people that I've read about or know about that have reviewed it or petitioned it and got it overturned. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
And
no.
so you're right. You got to be smart about it. Don't be like me and
I
and
love
just
that.
take whatever. It's not good. Not good.
All right, next time I want to try something, I'll send it to you and you let me know how you
I'll
feel.
let you know.
Later.
That's my role. Like I can just be like, hey, this is not for you. Like you don't, this isn't good.
That's great.
That way you know, it takes all the risk
Everyone
out
needs
of it.
someone like you in their life. That's awesome.
I thank you. I appreciate that. You know, obviously you got to mention, I mean, I think UBS, just knowing what I'm reading right here, UBS is an important one of your life. That's
Yes,
for
for
sure.
sure. He sponsors my whole
So
world.
that's great. That's great. It's nice to have the support and someone who understands what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
it's, I think my wife, she gets it, but she doesn't fully understand it. And so she's like, what?
Oh
Why?
man. Do we have time for me to
And
tell you a little story?
absolutely we do.
Okay, so my husband and I, we met at the gym actually. I told you we
No,
went and got our,
no way. No
yeah,
way. I would
stop
never
it.
believe that.
We told you we went and got our L1s together and everything. So he's very supportive. He's obviously like a, 7 to 5 businessman, whatever, with UBS. He's a financial advisor, senior, whatever. But loves CrossFit. If he could, he probably would, want to be a coach and whatever, but he also is very passionate about his job too. So anyways, I start with grid, and him and his like best friends are like my training buddies, right? Like his best friend is actually the one who did all my programming to get me ready for last year, because I was like panicked. I got to get really strong. I just had a freaking baby. Like, help me. I need to be able to move all of these ladders, whatever. So he did all of my like programming and everything for me. And they are very supportive of me, but they're like the CrossFitters that are like, oh, grid is not real because, okay, you might be able to snatch that bar, but how fast are your burpees? Like they're that kind of whatever. So when we went to Vegas and a lot of people were missing their people, Vegas was a crazy tournament last year because not everybody could go because of the hurricane. The Palm Beach Breakers had my husband play for them.
Go ahead, Justin. Get it, man.
Get it, right? After that match. I mean, he did great. He did the best he could, but he dropped the bar on mirror, so they had to run. And after the match, he was like, all right, I get it. And it was like, just that like humbling moment. And I was like, thank you. Like the intensity, the adrenaline. He went up against Blake Kidder in a freaking ringer point.
Oh.
I was like, honey, that's not on you. That's not on you. You can't feel bad about that. So it was just so fun for him to see like the other side of it, the hot and cold of warming up and then waiting races and, all of that. So it ended up being a really fun weekend for me.
You're right. I mean, obviously, in a memory that you guys will share and keep. That's even as important as him understanding fully what it's all about too.
Yep.
My wife was the same way. She didn't understand CrossFit because I did CrossFit for 2 years before I got her in to try it. And once she tried it, she was like, okay, I get it. I'm
Right?
not at that level that you guys are at, but I get it.
You get the draw.
So right.
That's awesome.
So I feel you. I feel you. But Breezy, I know you got work to do and it's Thursday. You got to get ready for the weekend. I mean, you got the kids, you got it all. Like, what are the plans for the weekend? What's a normal weekend for you?
Oh man, kids. Thursdays, kids have swim. They go to school on Friday. I work Fridays. And then weekends, actually they spend Saturday mornings with their grandma because my husband and I spend about 2 to 3 hours at the gym. And then, we just hang out all weekend pretty much, chill, try and find stuff to do. My kids are balls of energy. So just trying to wear them out constantly.
I know. I got 2 girls. I got a 7-year-old and then a 1.5-year-old.
Ooh, that
And now that the
1.5-year-old.
1.5-year-old, now that she can walk, she runs everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
just like game on. Like
That's
everything is, it's like an adventure in the house. Like it's crazy. So, but yeah,
My
we're,
son is
between my daughter doing gymnastics and dance, and then her, like it's on the go always.
My son is 14 months old, and my daughter, the 3-year-old, she does gymnastics too. And we were at her practice the other night, and he's like, now he's walking now and like trying to climb on everything and crawl over everything. He's just, I need to just put him in a bubble wrap because he just has no fear.
I just want to put mine out on the floor and then just kind of like walk away, because I feel like the coaches would just start going, "All right, come over here, little girl." Like, start.
Yeah, might as
I
well.
kid. Everybody out there, I'm joking. I'm joking. I wouldn't do that to my kid. But Breezy, I appreciate you joining us. I hope you have a great weekend, successful 2025 season. Obviously, we're gonna be, fins up. We're gonna be doing shows all year. I'm gonna be at the matches, so I hope to meet you in person and talk more with you. And if there's anything I can do for you, plug sponsors or bring you back on to talk about some stuff, just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That is Breezy Leins, everybody, of the Southwest Florida Sharks. If you like hearing Breezy's story, or you just like hearing average Joes talk X's and O's, please share the podcast on Facebook, head over to YouTube, do 3 things: click like, click subscribe, click notifications. That way you get content when it's first uploaded. We've got catalogs, we've got playlists, we've got college baseball, college gymnastics, we've got pro baseball, we got grid league, we got something for everybody. Go check it out. It's been a great week. We're ending it. It's sad, but the reality is we got another stacked week next week. On Monday, the 24th, we're going to be talking to Paul Baer, owner of the new Las Vegas Venom. Not new, but they've switched locations, relocated out west. So we got Paul, and he's bringing on Ben Navarez, one of his first signed players for the Venom out there in Vegas. And then on Thursday, we got Sammy Nowie, another Shark. We talked to, we've talked to a bunch of Sharks. We talked to Valerie. We talked to Breezy. We're bringing, We're bringing Sammy on. So getting the full gamut of Sharks, I'm pretty pumped about that. So y'all stick around, join us next week. And as always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grid and grind all the time. We are out.